What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of The Real Housewives of Dubai, Season 1, Episodes 2 and 3. I'm only going to talk about the stuff that stood out for me because after this video, I have to do Episode 4. So let's talk about Ayan and Nina. They meet up for lunch. Nina shows up very casual. Ayan shows up like she just stepped off the runway of Milan. She came in some hot couture outfit, high fashion outfit. She had on a short blonde, like platinum blonde bob. She was giving fashion, and Nina was like, "When I come to lunch, I just dress whatever." Nina says, "I don't have to show off my wealth in my clothes." Okay, Nina, but some girls want to give it, and Ayan was definitely giving it. So they start talking about Thanksgiving because Nina says that she still celebrates Thanksgiving. As we all know, Nina actually was born in Lebanon, but she grew up in the United States. And so Thanksgiving is still one of the things that she likes to celebrate. Ayan makes a joke in her confessional, something about not fooling with colonizer type holidays. After that, they talk about Stanberry, Caroline Stanberry, and they talk about how Ayan felt when she was excluded from the engagement party. And Ayan says, whenever she's being mistreated like that by her friends, it kind of triggers something in her that takes her back to her very abusive childhood. And Nina suggests, well, why don't you and Stanberry, reach out to one another and try to make amends? And Ayan was like, oh, no, we're not doing that. Another thing that they talked about was Ayan mentioned to Nina that at the dinner that they had, after the engagement party, Ayan mentions how Nina really was not there for her, really didn't stand up for her when Stanberry and Brooks were coming after her. And so Nina tries to defend herself and say, look, I was trying to tell everybody to calm down, but y'all didn't want to listen to me, but I was trying to be there for you by telling everybody that, relax, calm down, stop arguing. But y'all were over talking me. And, I was like, girl, that's not really standing up for your friend. She wanted you to like tell off the other two women, not just tell everybody to be quiet. Moving on from there, Lisa. Now, Lisa's at the supermarket. Lisa also celebrates Thanksgiving, but with a Jamaican twist. So she's at the supermarket getting all of her stuff. And the reason why I'm mentioning this particular scene is because the supermarket was divided into the Muslim section and the non-Muslim section. I was like, what kind of segregation stuff is this? But it was nothing about segregation. It was just, I guess, respect for the Muslim people to not go into the part of the store that might have a lot of products that they don't really fool with. So that's how that was. And I thought that was really interesting because that's something that we would never see in America. The only thing that was sectioned off in the United States was, black and white. So that was really interesting. I'm assuming, I don't know much about it, but I'm assuming it's to sort of like show respect to people who do practice Islam, for them not to have to be around pork products or products that don't align with their religion. And that's another reason why I like watching The Housewives of Dubai, because it's like it's exposing me to a whole different world. And it's just really interesting to learn about different cultures and different countries. So later on, Lisa is hosting Thanksgiving dinner. She invites Ayan over. Ayan comes over and she brings a goat. And Ayan says that the reason why she brought the goat was because in her culture, this is something else that we're learning. In her culture, a goat is a very important commodity. And so when you give someone a goat, it's like you're showing them how much you appreciate them and how much you like them and how much that person means to you. So they're sitting there talking. It's, of course, the children are there. Ayan and her husband, Lisa and her husband, and they're all conversating. And we get to learn also that Ayan, has been with her husband since 1999. I don't think he's the father of her son, but he's definitely raised him. I think she said that he came into their lives when her son was 6 months old. So he's definitely, his father. But they've been together since 1999. And that was really interesting. And Ayan tells Lisa that she had lunch with Nina, and she kind of questions Nina's loyalty to her. And then the goat fell in the pool. Moving on from there. Sarah. Sarah, Sarah is really interesting to me. To me, she's like, I don't know, she's just really interesting. So Ayan comes over to Sarah's house, and she comes over with a gift, and her gift is onions. And I didn't understand why she was giving onions, but that's what she brought. So to talk about each other's backgrounds, how they grew up, etc. And Ion says that her father abandoned their family. And so when that happened, she kind of had to like step up as being like helping out her mom to provide for the family. Her mom didn't have a lot of education. And so she had to really like take over when her father left. But she also talks about the abuse that she suffered from her father. And she tells a story that when she was 7 years old, her father caught her doing something that she wasn't supposed to be doing. So her father tied her to a tree outside in the rain and commenced to beating her. And I think he also had her take off her clothes, tied her to a tree, and commenced to beating her. And he beat her so, so bad that after that, she attempted to run away from home because it was so horrible. She also says that she's never forgiven her father for all the stuff that he inflicted on her because it was, it's just that bad. She doesn't see herself ever forgiving her father for the things that he did. And she also mentions how her husband has given her a sense of safety that her father never did. And then she talks about again how she's very easily triggered when people mistreat her or treat her bad or kind of like make her feel like she's not worth anything. They make her feel less than, like the way Stanberry did by not inviting her to this engagement party when she invited everybody else in their friend group, and how much that affected her. And it was really sad. It was really, really sad. But it was also nice to see Ion opening up like that and being so vulnerable. And I think Sarah suggested that she try, I think it was hypnotherapy or something like that. Moving on to episode 3. So let's start off with Ion again. So she is meeting up with Brooks. Ion and Lisa are meeting up with Caroline Brooks. And the point of this scene for me was that Lisa and Ion, they want Brooks to convince Stanberry to reach out to Ion to try to make amends. Because Ion says, I did nothing wrong. It's all on Caroline Stanberry. So she's the one that needs to approach me and apologize to me. And they want Brooks to put that in Stanberry's head. Moving on from that. Sarah. So Sarah is having a photo shoot, and it's for a Western publication. And Sarah tells us that a lot of Western publications seek her out because they see her as this very rebellious Arab woman. But you know what? Truth be told, she's not really that rebellious, other than how she doesn't believe that she needs to be married to a man, or she has to have a man in her life to take care of her. Other than that, she doesn't seem that rebellious. It seems like she really falls in line with Arab culture, but with like a modern twist. Because the way she dresses, it's modest, she dresses very modest. She doesn't wear anything revealing, anything form-fitting. Her confessional looks is when the girls are really giving it. In her confessional looks, she's like in very loosey-goosey type of outfits. She's covered from like her neck all the way down. She's completely covered. She doesn't show any body parts. She's not showing anything revealing, anything tight-fitting. She's very... Her outfits are very modest in her confessional. Also, there was a scene in the previous episode, I think it was in the other episode, where she was showing her son how to eat in the traditional way that they would eat in her family, which is everybody sits on the floor, you eat with your hands. And so she was showing her son how to do that. He wasn't fooling with that, but she was trying to encourage him to eat that way. So that's something else that shows how she's trying to fall in line with her traditional Arab culture. But let her tell it. She's like a rebel, and she's going against going against this Arab system in Dubai, and she's breaking all the rules. But she's really not really. So anyway, moving on from that. So she has this photo shoot, and in the photo shoot, I think they wanted her to wear something that was a little bit revealing, and she's like, no, I'm not going to wear that because it's too revealing. And all of her outfits in the photo shoot were pretty modest. So yeah, they're seeking her out because she's so rebellious. But she's rebellious only I think when it comes to love and relationships. But everything else, I don't think she's that rebellious. Moving on, Stanberry. So the interesting about this particular scene that I'm going to talk about is Stanberry is home with her children and Sergio, her husband. And, She tells us that in the beginning, her children had a really hard time, warming up to Sergio because they just wanted their mom back with their dad. But eventually, they did warm up to him, and now they have a really good relationship with Sergio. And she says something like, he's like a stepfather slash big brother to my children. If you see him that way, then do you also see him as your husband slash son? Like, what do you mean stepbrother? That's their no, not stepbrother, big brother. Yeah, she says he's more like a stepfather slash big brother to my children, which means that she sees him as her husband slash son. Like, she sees him that way. Like, how do you see your husband as your kid's big brother? That's their stepfather. They like what? No. Moving on. Lisa. So Lisa is having a fashion show because she has what's it called? It's called I forgot what it's called, but she has a fashion line, and she mainly designs maternity clothes. But for this particular fashion show, she's going to introduce her new line of non-maternity clothes. All the women are there except for Stanberry. And we know that Stanberry doesn't see it for Lisa because in the previous scene, or whenever it was, Brooks did mention to Stanberry, hey, Ion and Lisa want you to go and apologize to Ion. And of course, Stanberry was like, I'm not doing that. Hell no. And I think the way that Brooks presented it, like, Lisa asked me to ask you if you're willing to talk to Ion, Stanberry automatically started feeling some kind of way towards Lisa. And she was like, this has got nothing to do with Lisa. It is none of her business. She needs to stay in her lane because my relationship with Ion is my business. So Lisa needs to stay out of it. And I think that's what started the animosity between Stanberry and Lisa. So at the fashion show, Stanberry wasn't there. She didn't want to support because she's a hater. She didn't want to support. She didn't want to be around her. None of that. So Stanberry, instead, she's at home with her husband doing whatever. And she says that she sees Ion and Lisa as her wicked stepsisters. That's how she sees them. Like, she has a lot of animosity towards those two women. So Lisa's husband introduces the show. The show begins. The fashion show begins. All the clothes to me looked absolutely wonderful. There were some really cute maternity clothes. She introduced her non-maternity line, and the fashion show went great. Everybody loved the fashions. It was a huge success. Oh, it's called Mina Row. Yeah, it was called Mina Row. And that is the end of episodes 2 and 3. So this is where we get to see the cracks between Lisa and Caroline Stanberry. And we get to learn so much more about Ion. And so these 2 episodes were really good. I think I'm going to stick with Dubai. Now, what might make me change my mind is how involved Phaedra is going to be, because I can only take so much of Phaedra. Everybody loves her reads and all of that, and I do agree that her reads are good. And Phaedra, when she was first on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, she was my favorite. I loved Phaedra. And I loved Phaedra and Candy together. But when Phaedra turned on Candy with the whole Dungeon Gate thing, I had to cut ties with Phaedra. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to look at her again when she comes at next week's episode. But anyway, that's the end of that review. I am going to do episode 4 right after this. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to rate the video on your way out. If you like this content, subscribe. If you don't, honey, don't worry about it. But thank you for stopping by anyway, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.